The massive Empire ship emerged from hyperspace like a whale breaching the ocean's surface. Its dark metal hull reflected the distant sunlight, creating an ominous shadow over Earth's moon. Inside the United Earth Defense Command Center, Admiral James Miller watched the main screen with steady eyes, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. "They're bigger than our scans suggested," said Lieutenant Webb from his monitoring station. The young officer's fingers danced across his control panel, gathering data on the alien vessel. Miller nodded slowly. After 30 years in the Space Force, he had learned that size rarely determined the outcome of conflicts. "Open a channel," he ordered, his voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. This would be humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Empire. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a tall, blue-skinned being in ornate military dress. The Empire's regional commander looked down at the humans with 4 golden eyes, his expression a mixture of boredom and contempt. "Greetings," Miller began. "I am Admiral James Miller of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with the Galactic Empire." The regional commander's upper lip curled slightly. "I am Supreme Commander Vex of the 7th Imperial Fleet. Your primitive sensors detected our approach 2 days ago, yet you made no attempts to flee or hide. Interesting." He paused, studying the humans on his screen. "Your species shows either great courage or profound foolishness." Miller smiled diplomatically. "Perhaps both, Supreme Commander. We humans often blur the line between those traits." This response seemed to puzzle the alien commander. His lower set of eyes blinked rapidly, while the upper pair remained fixed on Miller. "You are aware of our Empire's size and power, yes? We control 10,000 star systems. Our fleet numbers in the millions." "We are aware," Miller replied. "We are also aware that you have never encountered humans in war before. This gives us an opportunity to establish peaceful relations from the start." The Supreme Commander laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "You speak of peace while your planet bristles with primitive weapons. Our scans show nuclear devices, kinetic strike platforms, and crude space vessels. Do you intend to threaten the Empire with these toys?" Miller's expression hardened slightly. "No, Supreme Commander." That was not a threat. It was a warning. He took a step closer to the screen. "Humanity has spent its entire history fighting itself. Every advance in our technology, every scientific breakthrough, came from our drive to gain advantages in warfare. We've gotten very good at it. You speak proudly of your barbarism." Vex sneered. "We speak honestly of our nature," Miller corrected. "We don't want war with the Empire. But if you force one upon us, you will learn why we warned you to run." The Supreme Commander's 4 eyes narrowed dangerously. "You dare to suggest the Empire should fear primitives who have barely left their own atmosphere?" "Fear? No." Miller shook his head. "Respect would be wiser. You say we're primitive because we've just reached space. But consider this. We developed spaceflight, nuclear power, and global communications while constantly at war with ourselves. Imagine what we can do when united against an outside threat." The alien commander slammed a hand on his control panel. "Enough. You will submit to Imperial rule or face extinction. You have 1 planetary rotation to surrender." The screen went dark. Miller turned to his bridge crew, all of whom watched him with grim determination. "Send word to the Security Council. Tell them the Empire chose not to heed our warning." He walked to the main window, staring at the massive alien ship that still hung above the moon. And God help them for that choice. Lieutenant Webb cleared his throat. "Sir, should we activate the defense grid?" "No." Miller's voice was heavy with the weight of what would come. "Not yet. Let them think we're as primitive as they believe. Let them make the first move." He turned back to his crew, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "But send the coded signal to all hidden bases. Wake the sleeping giant." "Yes, sir." Webb's fingers flew across his console, sending the message that would change the course of human history. As the command center hummed with activity, Miller watched the Imperial ship and remembered an old quote from Earth's history. They know not what they do. In this case, he thought, they truly didn't know what they were about to unleash. The lunar colony never saw the strike coming. A brilliant flash of green light cut through the darkness of space, and Outpost Armstrong erupted in a cloud of dust and debris. 300 civilians, scientists, engineers, and their families were gone in an instant. In the United Earth Defense Command Center, the room fell silent. The main screen showed the smoking crater where the colony had stood just moments before. Admiral Miller's hands gripped the command rail until his knuckles turned white. Message from the Empire ship. Sir, Lieutenant Webb's voice cracked slightly. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Supreme Commander Vex's image appeared on the screen, his 4 golden eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Consider this demonstration of Imperial power. Your primitive weapons cannot hope to match our technology. Surrender now, and we will be merciful. Miller's response was not to the Empire commander. Instead, he turned to his communications officer. Get me the Security Council. Now. Within minutes, the secondary screen lit up with the faces of Earth's most powerful leaders. The Russian president spoke first, her face grim. They killed our people, Admiral. Yes, Madam President. Miller's voice was steady. They chose war. The Chinese premier nodded slowly. Then we are united. One by one, the world leaders gave their consent. The American president delivered the final word. Activate the sleeping giant protocol. God help us all. Miller turned back to the main screen where Vex still waited, looking increasingly annoyed at being ignored. Supreme Commander, Miller said, you just made the biggest mistake in Imperial history. Vex laughed. Your bravado is amusing, primitive. Our sensors show no weapons capable of. The Empire commander's words cut off as his ship's sensors suddenly lit up with thousands of new contacts. All across Earth's surface, hidden bay doors were opening in mountains, under oceans, and in what appeared to be civilian facilities. From these concealed locations, humanity's real fleet emerged. Webb's console beeped rapidly. Sir, all battle groups report ready. Stealth fields disengaging. The look on Vex's face shifted from confusion to disbelief as ships began appearing on his sensors. Not the crude vessels his scans had detected earlier, but advanced warships with technology that rivaled Imperial standards. Hundreds of them, then thousands, rising from Earth's surface and emerging from hidden bases on Mars and Venus. Impossible, Vex whispered. Our scans showed exactly what we wanted them to show. Miller finished for him. Did you really think a species that spent millennia perfecting the art of war wouldn't understand the value of deception? The first wave of Earth's ships moved into attack formation. These weren't the basic spacecraft the Empire had detected. These were the products of centuries of warfare, adapted for space combat. Carriers launched swarms of fighters that moved with impossible agility. Stealth destroyers shimmered into visibility, their hulls covered in light-bending technology that the Empire had never encountered. This is your final warning, Miller said. Leave our solar system. Never return. Run. Vex's composure cracked. You dare. The Empire will. A single human fighter streaked past the Empire ship's bridge, so close that Vex stumbled back from his command station. The pilot rolled their craft in what was clearly a mocking salute before vanishing into stealth mode. That was a warning shot, Miller explained calmly. The next one won't miss. Your ship is surrounded. Your weapons are targeted. You have 1 minute to retreat. The Empire commander's face twisted with rage and fear. This deception will not be forgotten. The Empire will return with a full invasion fleet. Miller shook his head sadly. No, Commander. You're not understanding me. You won't make it back to warn them. The Empire ship's engines flared to life as it began a desperate retreat. As it fled, Miller turned to his crew. Send word to all commands. Operation Defender is now active. He paused, looking at the still smoking crater on the moon. And may God forgive us for what we must do next. Lieutenant Webb looked up from his station. "Sir, tracking shows the Empire ship has jumped to hyperspace. They're running." "Good," Miller said quietly. "Because now we hunt." Captain Robert Thompson stood on the bridge of the UES Surprise, watching the stars blur past his ship's view screen. His vessel, officially listed in Earth's records as a small cargo freighter, was actually one of humanity's most advanced stealth warships. Right now, it was leading a pack of hunters. "Contact ahead," his sensor officer called out. "Imperial Patrol Fleet. 5 ships, standard formation." Thompson smiled. The Empire still hadn't learned. "They're still using the same patterns they've used for the last 1,000 years, he said. "Status of our pack." "All ships report ready," his second-in-command replied. "The Wolf, the Tiger, and the Bear are in position." The names weren't chosen by accident. Earth's hidden fleet had taken inspiration from nature's most effective predators. Each ship was designed for a specific hunting style, just like their animal namesakes. "The Empire's ships are receiving the distress signal," the communications officer reported. "They're moving to investigate." Thompson nodded. The fake distress beacon was an old trick, as old as naval warfare on Earth's oceans. Some things never change, even in space. "Begin Operation Huntmaster." The UES Wolf struck first, its stealth systems allowing it to slip between 2 Imperial ships before they even knew it was there. Its weapons, designed to pierce the Empire's supposedly superior shields, cut through the first ship's engines like they were paper. The Empire commanders barely had time to register the attack before the Tiger pounced from above, its specialized EMP weapons shutting down 2 more Imperial vessels. The Empire had never considered defending against electromagnetic pulses. They considered such weapons primitive. "Their formation is breaking," Thompson's tactical officer reported with satisfaction. "They're trying to scatter." "Trying is the key word," Thompson said. "Release the Bear." The largest of their hunting pack, the Bear emerged from its hiding spot behind a small asteroid. Its huge bulk belied its advanced technology. While the Empire built their ships to look impressive, humanity had focused on effectiveness. The Bear's ungainly appearance hid the most powerful weapon system ever created by human hands. The remaining Imperial ships turned to flee, finally realizing they were outmatched. It was too late. "Message from the Bear," the comm officer announced. "Captain Rogers says, time for a hug." The Bear's main weapon activated, creating a localized gravity well that caught the fleeing Imperial ships like fish in a net. They hung helpless in space, their mighty engines useless against the fundamental force of gravity itself. "Open a channel to the Imperial ships," Thompson ordered. The main screen lit up, showing a panicked Imperial commander. "What are you?" the alien demanded. "How can primitives possess such weapons?" "We tried to warn you," Thompson said calmly. "Humanity spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare. Did you think we wouldn't be ready for space combat?" He paused, letting his words sink in. "Now, you have a choice. Surrender or join your fallen comrades." The Imperial commander looked around his failing bridge, where warning lights flashed and systems sparked. We surrender." "Wise choice." Thompson turned to his crew. "Begin boarding operations. I want their databases copied and their technology analyzed. Let's see what other surprises the Empire's been keeping from the galaxy." Hours later, Thompson recorded his report to Admiral Miller. "Sir, Operation Huntmaster was a complete success. 5 Imperial ships captured with minimal damage. Their databases confirm our suspicions. The Empire has grown complacent. They haven't faced a real challenge in centuries." He paused, looking at the captured Imperial ships through his viewport. "More importantly, we've confirmed that they still haven't warned their high command about us. They're too embarrassed to admit that primitives defeated them. Their pride will be their downfall." Miller's response came quickly. "Good work, Captain. Prepare your pack for Phase 2. It's time to show the Empire why Earth's history books are filled with stories of empires that fell to supposedly inferior forces." Thompson ended the transmission and looked at his crew. "You heard the Admiral. Let's go hunting again." In the darkness of space, 4 Predator ships moved silently toward their next target, carrying with them humanity's message to the galaxy. Never underestimate those who have mastered the art of war. Commander Anna Wilson watched the massive asteroid field spread across her view screen. To the Empire, this chaotic mass of spinning rocks was a navigation hazard to be avoided. To her, it was perfect. "Status of the Imperial fleet?" she asked, her eyes never leaving the field of tumbling space rocks ahead of the UES Ghost. 23 ships approaching, Commander," her tactical officer reported. "They're following our trail exactly as planned." Wilson allowed herself a small smile. The Empire's military doctrine hadn't changed in centuries. They still chased their enemies in straight lines, like predators that had never faced prey that could think. "Launch the miners," she ordered. From the Ghost's launch bays, dozens of what appeared to be standard mining drones emerged. The Empire sensors would see them as simple automated mining units, the same kind humans had used to harvest asteroids for decades. They wouldn't realize these drones had been modified for war until it was too late. "Imperial fleet is entering the asteroid field," her sensor officer called out. "They're maintaining formation." "Wait, they're slowing down." "They're being cautious." Wilson nodded. "Good. Spring the trap." The mining drones suddenly activated their modified gravity beams, technology the Empire thought humanity was too primitive to possess. Instead of pulling asteroids apart for mining, these beams pushed them together. Dozens of massive space rocks began moving, forming a deadly web around the Imperial fleet. "What are they doing?" The Imperial commander's confused transmission echoed across the bridge. "Primitive mining units cannot." His words cut off as the first asteroids collided with his fleet's outer ships. The Empire's mighty shields, designed to stop energy weapons and missiles, proved far less effective against millions of tons of rock moving at high speed. "Phase 2, Wilson commanded. "Show them why humans are so dangerous in tight spaces." From behind larger asteroids, Earth's actual combat ships emerged. They were smaller than Imperial vessels, more agile, designed specifically for combat in cluttered environments. While the Empire built their ships for grand battles in open space, humanity had prepared for warfare in every possible environment. Multiple Imperial ships reporting shield failures. Tactical reported with satisfaction. "They're trying to retreat, but the asteroid field is too dense now." Wilson keyed her comm. "All ships, execute attack pattern chaos. Remember your history lessons. We're pirates today." Her fleet responded beautifully. Each ship moved independently, using maneuvers based on Earth's ancient naval raiders. The Empire's massive ships, trapped and surrounded, couldn't bring their main weapons to bear on the smaller, faster human vessels that darted between asteroids to strike at their weak points. "Mom," her comm officer called out suddenly. "We're picking up Imperial communications. They're asking each other how to fight us. They don't know what to do." "Of course they don't," Wilson said quietly. "They've forgotten that war isn't about having the biggest ships or the strongest weapons. It's about outsmarting your enemy." The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the mighty Imperial fleet was in ruins. Some ships were crushed by asteroids, others disabled by precise strikes from Earth's vessels. The few that survived had surrendered. Wilson recorded her after-action report. "Operation Rock Garden successful. Minimal casualties on our side." The Empire still hasn't adapted to human combat tactics. They expect us to fight like they do, meeting them in open space, exchanging fire in organized formations. They don't understand that humans learned long ago that the best way to win a fight is to change the rules of engagement. She paused, watching her crews begin securing the captured Imperial vessels. "More importantly, we've proven that their supposed technological superiority means nothing. They've spent so long dominating weaker species that they've forgotten how to actually fight. Every victory makes them more confused, more afraid. They don't just fear our weapons now, they fear the way we think. The report concluded. Wilson turned to her bridge crew. Set course for the rendezvous point, and download their tactical databases. I want to know what other weaknesses they're hiding behind their arrogance. As the Ghost moved away from the asteroid field, Wilson reflected on an old Earth saying, "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog." The Empire was about to learn that humanity had been breeding very dangerous dogs for a very long time. General David Anderson stood before the holographic display, showing the Empire's largest military base in the Centauri sector. 2 weeks ago, this base had been considered unbeatable. Today, it would fall. "Report from our infiltration teams," his aide announced. "The virus is in their systems." Anderson nodded. The Empire had laughed at human computer technology, calling it primitive. They never considered that humanity had spent centuries fighting digital wars against itself. Their overconfidence made them vulnerable. "Begin Phase 1, Anderson ordered. "Let's show them why they should have run when we warned them." Across the massive Imperial base, every alarm suddenly began blaring at once. Emergency lights flashed in random patterns. Doors opened and closed without command. The Empire's mighty computer systems, which had never faced a real cyber attack, fell into chaos. "Their ships are powering up," the tactical officer reported, "but their formation is scattered. They don't know which warnings are real and which are false." Anderson smiled grimly. "Launch the Ghosts." From the darkness of space, dozens of small human ships appeared. They weren't warships. They were electronic warfare vessels, broadcasting thousands of fake sensor readings. To the Empire's confused systems, it looked like they faced an armada of thousands. Imperial communications intercepted. The comms officer called out. They're panicking, sir. Listen." The bridge speakers crackled with dozens of Imperial voices. "Where are they coming from? How many ships do these humans have? We can't coordinate our defenses. They're everywhere." "Now they understand," Anderson said quietly. Phase 2. Show them what real fear feels like. The actual human attack force emerged from stealth mode, just 3 ships. But these weren't ordinary vessels. They were humanity's new Nightmare-class battleships, designed specifically to fight the Empire. The first Imperial ships to face them didn't stand a chance. The Nightmares moved like predators, using attack patterns based on Earth's most efficient hunters. Their weapons had been crafted to exploit every weakness humans had discovered in Imperial technology. "Sir," his tactical officer reported with awe, "the Imperial ships. They're breaking formation completely. Some are trying to run." "They're learning," Anderson nodded. "But too late. Execute Phase 3. Hidden among the asteroids around the base, human Marines in stealth suits had been waiting. They launched now, using personal jump drives, technology the Empire had never developed because they thought individual soldiers were unimportant. The Imperial base's internal cameras showed the chaos. Human soldiers appeared seemingly from nowhere, moving with the speed and precision born from thousands of years of ground combat evolution. The Empire's troops, used to fighting in rigid formations, couldn't adapt to the guerrilla warfare tactics. "Base commander is sending out a general distress call," comms reported. "Should we block it?" "No," Anderson said. "Let them call for help. Let the Empire hear their fear." The base commander's desperate message echoed across space. "They're not fighting like any species we've ever faced. They appear everywhere at once. They fight without patterns, without rules. Send help. Send everything." Anderson keyed the general command channel. "All forces, execute final phase. Remember, we're not just fighting their ships and soldiers. We're fighting their confidence. Make them remember this day." The battle lasted another hour, but the outcome was never in doubt. When it ended, humanity's flag flew over the Empire's greatest military installation in the sector. The cost in Imperial lives and ships had been devastating. Anderson recorded his victory message to Earth Command. The Empire's greatest weakness is their inability to adapt. They've spent so long being the strongest that they forgot how to face an enemy who thinks differently. They claim to rule the galaxy, but they never learned its most important lesson. The most dangerous predator isn't the biggest or strongest, but the one that never stops learning, never stops evolving. He paused, watching Imperial prisoners being led to holding cells, their proud faces now showing something new. Fear. They're starting to understand now. Every battle shows them something new about humanity, something that terrifies them. They're learning what we tried to tell them at the start, that they should have run when they had the chance. The Empire was about to learn another human lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the one you see coming, but the one you underestimated until it was too late. Colonel Tom Walker watched the holographic display of Imperial territory with cold satisfaction. Red dots marked human victories, spreading like a virus through the Empire's once mighty domain. But today's operation would be different. Today would break them. All ships report ready for Operation Thunderclap, his second-in-command reported. The Empire still hasn't detected our presence. Of course not, Walker said. They're still looking for a fleet. They haven't figured out that we don't need one. His ship, the UES Thunder, hung silent in space near the Empire's central logistics hub. The massive facility coordinated all military movements for this sector of Imperial space. The Empire thought it was safe, protected by a fleet of 50 warships. Launch the packages, Walker ordered. From the Thunder's cargo bay, hundreds of small objects no bigger than satellites drifted into space. To Imperial scanners, they looked like debris, space junk left over from previous battles. The Empire's mighty sensors ignored them completely. Packages are in position, Tactical reported. Ready on your order. Walker opened a channel to all human forces in the sector. Remember what they did to our lunar colony. Remember how they laughed when we warned them. Begin Operation Thunderclap. The small packages suddenly activated, revealing themselves as humanity's newest weapon. Each one generated its own micro-jump field, something the Empire had thought impossible. In an instant, the space around the Imperial hub turned into chaos. Ships appeared where there had been empty space seconds before. Not large battleships, but small, agile fighters piloted by Earth's best. The Empire's fleet scrambled to respond, but their rigid formations fell apart as human vessels seemed to teleport around them. First wave of Imperial ships disabled, Tactical called out. Their sensors can't lock onto our jump signatures. Inside the Imperial hub, panic spread. Their supposedly unbeatable defense grid was useless against an enemy that could appear anywhere, strike, and vanish again. Human ships jumped in and out of existence, hitting critical systems with surgical precision. Message intercepted from the Imperial command. Communications reported. Playing now. A frantic voice filled the bridge. They're impossible to track. Their ships violate every law of space combat. Request immediate reinforcements from all available. The transmission cut off as another human strike team hit the hub's communications array. Sir, Tactical called out, Imperial reinforcements arriving. But something's wrong. They're fighting each other. Walker smiled grimly. Show me. The display revealed Imperial ships firing on their own forces. The virus humans had planted in their network weeks ago had finally activated, turning their friend or foe systems against them. In their panic and confusion, they couldn't tell which targets were real enemies and which were their own ships. Message from Earth Command. Communications announced. Admiral Miller sends his congratulations. The Empire's Central Council is in emergency session. 3 system governors have already requested peace talks. They're starting to break. Walker nodded, but not enough. Not yet. He turned to his crew. Begin Phase 2. Show them what happens when humans really decide to fight. The Thunder emerged from its hiding place, revealing itself as more than just a command ship. Its hull split open like a blooming flower, exposing the massive device hidden within. humanity's ultimate weapon against imperial arrogance. Target their flagship, Walker ordered. Let's show them what primitive humans can really do. The device activated, creating a controlled quantum tunnel, technology the Empire had deemed theoretically impossible. In an instant, half of the Imperial flagship simply ceased to exist, transported into another dimension. Panic turned to terror as the Empire's remaining ships realized the truth. Humans hadn't been fighting at full strength. They'd been holding back, testing, learning. And now they were done playing. Sir, communications called out urgently. We're receiving surrender signals from 80% of the Imperial forces in this sector. The hub commander is begging for terms. Walker looked at the devastation around him. The wreckage of Empire ships, the disabled hub, the scattered survivors. Send word to Earth Command. Tell them the Empire has learned its lesson. Now they know why they should have run. As emergency beacons flashed across space like stars, Walker recorded in his log, "Today marks the beginning of the end." The Empire finally understands that they didn't just start a war. They awakened a force they can't control, can't predict, and can't defeat. They're learning what Earth's history has proven countless times. There's nothing more dangerous than humans united against a common enemy. The Empire's dominance over the galaxy was ending, not with a grand battle, but with the terrifying realization that they faced an enemy unlike any they had ever known. Admiral James Miller stood in the same spot where this war had begun, but everything else had changed. The massive window of Earth's Defense Command now showed a very different view. Hundreds of surrendered Imperial ships, their once proud hulls now dark and powerless. The Imperial High Council's delegation is approaching, Lieutenant Webb announced. His voice was stronger now, hardened by months of war. They're flying white flags on their ships. An ancient Earth custom they learned about the hard way, Miller noted. Funny how quickly they studied human history once they started losing. The Imperial diplomatic vessel was small, nothing like the mighty warship that had first appeared over Earth's moon. As it docked with the space station, Miller straightened his uniform. History would remember this day. The Imperial delegation entered the conference room looking nothing like the proud conquerors they'd been months ago. Their Supreme Chancellor, leader of 10,000 star systems, couldn't meet Miller's eyes. "Please," the Chancellor began, his voice barely a whisper, "we come to discuss terms." Miller gestured to the conference table. "The same table where we tried to make peace before, where we warned you to run." He paused. "Sit." The Imperial leaders took their seats, flinching at every movement from the human guards. Their fear was obvious, not just of weapons, but of humans themselves. "Before we begin," the Chancellor said, "we must know. How did a single species defeat the greatest empire the galaxy has ever known?" Miller activated the room's holographic display, showing scenes from the war. "You made 3 mistakes. First, you judged us by our apparent level of technology, not understanding that we hid our true capabilities. The display showed human ships emerging from hidden bases, advanced weapons appearing from nowhere. Second, you assumed that because we were new to space, we were new to war. The images changed to show human forces using tactics that had evolved over thousands of years of Earth's conflicts. But your biggest mistake," Miller leaned forward, "you failed to understand what humanity is. You saw our divisions, our constant conflicts, and thought us weak. You never realized that our struggles made us strong. Every war taught us something. Every battle made us better." The Chancellor nodded slowly. "We found the historical records, your world, the violence, the constant evolution of warfare. No other species we encountered had such a history." "And now?" Miller asked. "Now we understand why you warned us to run." The Chancellor placed a data crystal on the table, the Empire's unconditional surrender, the terms you demanded. "We accept them all." Miller picked up the crystal. "Then let me be clear about what happens next. The Empire will withdraw from human space entirely. You will share your technology freely with all species you previously dominated. and you will remember this lesson. The other species, another Imperial leader, spoke up. They're already rebelling. Using human tactics, human strategies. The Empire is falling apart. Good, Miller said simply. Perhaps the galaxy needs a reminder that size and power aren't everything. That sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one who offers you a chance to walk away. The peace treaty was signed within the hour. As the Imperial delegation prepared to leave, the Chancellor turned to Miller one last time. "There's one more question," he said. "You could destroy us completely. Your forces are inside our territory. Your weapons are unstoppable. Why offer peace at all?" Miller smiled. "Because that's the final lesson we wanted to teach you. Humanity isn't just good at war. We're good at peace too. We know when to fight and when to stop fighting. That's something your empire never learned." After the Imperial ships departed, Miller stood alone at the window, watching Earth rotate below. Lieutenant Webb joined him. "Sir," Webb said, "was it true what you told them about us being good at peace?" Miller nodded. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our tactics. It's our ability to choose. We chose to warn them. They chose not to listen. We chose to fight. And now, we choose to make peace." He turned away from the window. "Send word to the fleet. Operation Defender is officially over, but keep our forces ready. The galaxy is changing, and somewhere out there, someone else might need a friendly warning." As celebrations broke out across Earth and its colonies, humanity had proven what they'd tried to tell the Empire from the start. Sometimes the wisest choice is to run when a friend warns you to. Because if you don't, you might just learn why they gave that warning in the first place.